Hi everyone. Today my guest is Anthony Dillon, psychologist at the Australian Catholic University. Today we're talking about his article that was originally in the Telegraph, I believe, and is also being published at Liberty Works about bullying. So, Anthony, would you like to give us a summary about the arguments you make in your article?
Yeah, sure. First of all, bullying is a very important topic, and there's been a lot of work and attention given to it, especially in the area of preventing bullying. Having rules and laws against it, and that's fine. But I think we need to attack bullying from the other end of the spectrum as well, and that is teach potential targets what they can do to prevent being victims of bullies. And I guess the other point I want to make too was something which people don't realize too is that and this helps the target when they understand that a bully is someone who engages in bullying behavior because of their own inner insecurities.
Yes, yes. I read the article and you've copped a little bit of criticism for it from some quarters, but I have to say I agree with everything you've put in the article, and it really sort of is what I've experienced in my personal life. I've both been a bully, and I've also spent a lot more time being the victim of bullying as a child. And when I reflect on that, the things I've learnt as an adult, especially once I in my late 20s and early 30s, as I developed better social skills, I look back on my time in school, and I really kind of see the mistakes I made, and and how the kids need to build a bit of resilience. They need to not be such an easy mark for other kids, and that's a really hard pill for people to swallow. But you've got in the article here, that a head teacher in the UK wanted to stop kids having best friends. You know, so is this the path we're going to go down to make schools a bully-free zone, stopping kids have best friends?
And if you extend that further, we could have it that let's not let people have intimate, close relationships with others, because you could break up, and that could be devastating.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah, and
in actual fact, I mean, emerging from those experiences can be very valuable learning experiences, where you look back and you think, okay, what did I do wrong? How could I have done better? And all that sort of thing. And if you think about it, if a child, and you do get children where they lack the sensation of touch, they can't feel things, and so when you can't feel pain, that's a very dangerous world to be in. You get burnt and you're not realizing you're being burnt. So those sorts of kids don't have a good life. So it is important that both physically and emotionally, we do experience the bumps in life.
Yes, yes. I've encountered that with people. I've seen people who've perhaps had too much of a easy run in their childhood, and then something bad happens in their life, and they completely fall apart because they didn't know life could be hard. So yeah. I mean, we all need to have those experiences. So you've said the first steps you've broken the steps of how you'd handle bullying into 3 steps. So you've got the first step. So you've said the first step in addressing bullying is to realize that we as a society have been unwittingly promoting the view that people are fragile, are in need of constant reassurance, and must be protected against criticism and so-called microaggressions. So would you like to comment a bit more on that, and where you're seeing this happening?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it happens in schools where you've got some schools that are afraid to fail a kid. they don't realize that a kid coming last in a race isn't a devastating thing. Again, it can be a very good character building exercise. And so when you have all those sorts of interventions that are protecting kids either from their own actions or from the reality of real life, you're not doing them a good favor. You're not helping them at all, because the example you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, when they get out into the real world, there's some very tough lessons there to be learned, and reality can be quite tough. So if you're sheltered from that, yes, you'll crumble when you come up against real life.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's right. And then you've got in the second step, in stamping out verbal bullying is understand that bullies engage in bullying because of their own feelings of inadequacy and insecurities, despite the outward mask of confidence they wear. People relate with others in accordance with how they relate to themselves. So I know we get told this a lot, but I think especially when you're on the receiving end of bullying, it's quite hard to believe. It's hard to believe that in actual fact, that person bullying you is probably even more insecure than you are.
Oh, absolutely. And the bullies, they've learned it pretty well. They've learned how to act, rewarded for the acting, so they've got it down to a fine art. But we know that people wear masks, and we all know the scenario where you see someone who you think's incredibly attractive, and you think, gee, they'd have no trouble attracting admirers and that sort of thing. And when you get to know them, they will tell you things like, gee, I was so frightened he or she would say no to me. And you look at them and you think, well, gee, I would have thought you were so confident, you've got it all together. But a lot of people are able to wear masks and cover up this insecurity that they've got.
And we'll go to your third step. Sorry, I'm just going down here. So you do, yeah, the third step. The third step is, in addition to dealing with bullies' behavior, there's also great benefits in helping targets of bullies understand what they can do to prevent themselves from being victims. So this is probably, I think, the thing that's most lacking in all of this discussion, in all of the discussions that are happening at the moment, is that there's all this obsession with making schools a bully-free zone and all of that kind of thing. But there's none of that addresses the fact that what the hard question of why certain kids are an easy mark. So yeah, would you like to discuss that in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, those kids who are the easy marks are the ones which bullies know from experience. They'll get the better of them. So they'll call them a name, and that easy mark will say, "Don't you call me that? Hey, fatso, don't you call me that?" And on it goes. So the bullies have got it down to a fine art. They're able to pick the easy targets, and if it turns out that they're not an easy target, they'll move on. Yep. But as soon as they've got an easy target, well, that's entertainment for them, and it's psychological reward for them.
Yes, yes. And one thing that I talk about bullying, all the bullying discussion seems to forget is that when you go into the adult world, these problems don't go away. Like, people might not be openly bullied, but I used to be an employment consultant before I did what I do now, and like, people who don't fit in, who don't have the ability to fit in crowd, become unemployed, and they end up spending a lot of time with human resources because people complain about them. People make up, people do all kinds of things. They claim that there's being sexually harassed by the person. That fitting in, this is the thing that no one wants to talk about. Fitting in matters a lot. It matters. It's really blatant in a schoolyard because the kids who don't fit in get bullied. But in the adult world, people who don't fit in become unemployed, or they don't have jobs for very long, and they can't find a partner, and so the kids are the easy marks. They don't go on to be these wonderful, successful people after school. Quite often, they often end up with quite sad lives.
Yeah, or even if they have, you know, apparent outward success, like they might be a computer geek or something,
Yeah.
and make zillions of dollars with the latest app or something. They're not necessarily fulfilled inside if they haven't learned to get along with people and fit in.
Yes. Yeah. So let's say someone's watching this and they've got a kid that's being bullied. You know, or they know someone being bullied, and what are some strategies that they can use with their child to help them build their self-confidence and become a bit more Teflon coated, as you said in the article?
Okay. Well, first of all, love that kid unconditionally. So let them know that you're a good friend to them. Doesn't mean you'll always be soft with them, but let them know that your unconditional regard, your unconditional love is there for them. So that helps them feel a bit secure with you. And once they feel secure with you, they're more likely to be open to lessons like this. And before I get to the lessons, one, if you're going to put yourself in the role of helping kids like this, or even adults, be a good role model yourself. So don't teach them one thing, but you cry about something else yourself when you don't get your own way or someone picks on you or whatever. So make sure that what you teach and how you act is congruent or near congruent. And then you can begin to teach them about words and opinions. And I always like to, when I'm speaking with someone who's been bullied, they'll tell me what I'll say, you know, what did this person say? And they'll say, oh, you know, he called me a black, ugly person, an ugly black person or whatever. And I say, is that a fact or an opinion? And they realize, sometimes with a little bit of help, oh, that's an opinion. Right. Do you have an opinion of yourself? Whose opinion is more important to you? That person's opinion of you or your opinion of you? And once a person can understand or come to believe and accept that their opinion of themselves is more important to them than other people's opinions of themselves, that doesn't mean that they disregard other people's opinions. They certainly take it on board. But when it comes to evaluating their worth as a person, well, then they listen to their own opinion of themselves. I am worthy, even if I got held back, even if I failed, even if I screwed up, I am worthy. So that's the important message, is getting through to them that you are worthy. You've got your opinion of yourself, and you know, you walk into a room with 50 people there, that's 50 opinions of you.
Mm.
You can't be a slave to all those opinions. You consider them, but at the end of the day, you've got to be able to accept yourself, warts and all. And like yourself, as I said earlier in the article, people relate to others in accordance with how they relate to themselves. So someone who's got a good relationship with themselves finds it easier to have a good relationship with others.
Mm. Well, that's really good advice. Now, at what point would someone perhaps engage the services of someone like yourself, like take their child to see a psychologist or a counselor, or you know, if to deal with these kinds of issues?
If the parent's seeing no improvement or just senses that the child is, you know, not progressing as well as what he or she could be, it could be worth sitting down with the child and saying, hey, you know, how about we go chat with someone who's a bit more skilled than me at dealing with these things. So, you know, as a parent, listen to yourself, make careful observations and do what you feels right for you, and have no shame about doing it.
Yeah. That, I mean, I can see that being, you know, I can see using the strategies you've outlined as being, you know, people trying that themselves first. But at some point, you know, sometimes kids don't necessarily always take on board what their parents say, and so on. So seeing a professional could be useful in those circumstances. Now, yeah, so to take it a bit broader about this thing of bullying, I kind of relate what you've written to this, to a broader thing in society where people are trying to force other people to accept them. They want to use the power of the law and the power of the state to, you know, to force, with through anti-discrimination laws and all sorts of things, to try to force other people to have to like them, have to accept them. You know, do you see a bit of a trend there that that there's a bit of a link between sort of our attitude towards bullying and our broader attitude to some other issues in society?
Yeah, where there's laws or high expectations that I must agree with you and like you on certain issues and that sort of thing. Yeah, certainly. And you know, that just attacks a person's free will, their agency. And you know, Jordan Peterson talks about this better than what I do, so I won't cover this too much. But one of the principles I try and establish with people when I'm just talking with them, helping them, is let's suppose there's a person that they're wanting their approval or wanting to be liked by them or whatever. I always ask them, I say, do you want that person to like you, or do you want that person to want to like you? And there's a big difference.
Yeah.
If you just want them to like you, you can bribe them, you can coerce them, you can even force them, you can threaten them. Okay? But if you want it of their own free will, and you know, I think we all know what we really want. We want other people to want to do those things. If we want that person to want to like me, then we've got to allow them the opportunity not to like me. So they've got to be free to reject me if they're going to be free to genuinely like me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you force someone into compliance, you're not getting the buy-in, you're not getting their intrinsic motivation, it's getting passive compliance. And I guarantee you, with enough passive compliance, it will burn out eventually, where they will just say, you know, there'll come a time they'll say, stuff it. You know, I've acted for such a long time pretending to like you, pretending to agree with you or whatever, and they reach their limits and they will just, you know, throw the towel in.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. I think what you're saying there is pretty on the money. I mean, we're seeing that a lot with a lot of groups, especially I think in gender issues, that I think people are probably becoming covertly more sexist than they were, because there's so much gender politics being forced down their throat in the workplace now that you know, like they're now becoming more sexist than they were, because they're forced to say things they don't believe are true.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, when you keep a lid on it, it'll boil over eventually.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, people just, you know, unfortunately, there's always just going to be some people in this life who don't like you. You know, they're not going to, you know, people don't like all kinds of things about people. You know, they might not like your social class, they might not like your ethnicity, they might not like your gender, and you know, there's all kinds of, or just the way you dress or whatever. And it just seems like now people are getting so thin-skinned. Like, it's never nice not to be liked, but so thin-skinned now that they want some big authority to come in and bash the other person over the head and force people to like them.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said a minute ago, you pay a price for that. It feels, you know, you get that sort of temporary sense of good feeling, thinking that this other person's agreeing with me and liking me. But deep down, you know that they're not doing it from the heart, and that begins to worry you. And also the other problem with the other person, given enough time, will eventually, you know, just explode and say, I'm not going to do this anymore.
So prevention's better than cure. So what can a parent of a young child do so when their kid hits school, that they're making friends, that they've got that resilience, that they're not going to be one of the kids who ends up getting targeted?
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, establish that unconditional love and unshakable goodwill with your child, so that you got security there in the home. They know that they can rely on you. And it probably pays to also let them know, give them some lessons that you say, look, you know, you're a great kid, you're happy, friendly, but, you know, there are some kids that aren't like you. There are some who like to tease and pick, and they're cruel and nasty. And I hope you don't meet too many of those, but when you do meet them, let's have a talk about that. And then you can begin to talk about what I just spoke about, that bully is someone with low self-esteem.
Mm.
So help prepare them that there's going to be times like that, and it's normal in life.
Yep.
There's one in every class just about.
Mm.
That's normal, and I think that goes a long way to helping them. So preparing them, and then so I think that's the best way to prevent it. But so that the kid's not worried about it when it does happen. They just think, oh yeah, that's one of those kids mum and dad told me about who doesn't like themselves.
Yes, yeah, and I think we can all remember school, and there's kids who just sort of pick on each other, but basically they're good kids, and then you've got the odd kid who obviously has a really rough background and has real issues, like who really deep down doesn't like themselves. There's always one or two of those in any school, and um, yeah. So Jordan Peterson, I think, talks a lot about the fact that we have these small families now. Look, I'm an only child myself. Single child families. What role do you think that has in it? That you don't kids aren't being raised in an environment where they have siblings beating up on them constantly.
Yeah. Look, it's not one of not a topic I've thought about deeply, but it's certainly the dynamics of families and society are changing greatly. And when you have that case, and this is just a gross generalization, but with the only child and they don't have siblings, often they can grow up not used to sharing things and realizing that there's someone else waiting for their turn and that sort of thing. So I don't know how you turned out, but you see
They become libertarians.
Yeah. So it's only kids. It can be a great thing. It's just important to make sure that they realize that they're not the center of the universe. And this even goes for families who have got several kids. Don't raise your kid thinking that kid is the center of the universe. For the first few months, maybe, but after that, realize that they've got to fit in.
Yeah. Do you think childcare helps, sending a child to childcare? So that way they are getting that interaction with other children at a young age?
Yes, they are. But even if they don't get a childcare, usually there's other opportunities too where they meet other children as well. So no, I don't see childcare as being the cure. I don't see it as being a bad thing either, because if you don't get a childcare, there's plenty of opportunities, or should be plenty of opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, that was really insightful. Do you have anything else you'd like to go through before we wrap it up?
Yeah, look, just a couple of things.
Sure.
Let's remember this whole idea about what we've been talking about, how we value other people's opinions more than ourselves. Kids are taught that from a very early age. So we can't just, when people reach adulthood, they've had a whole lifetime, 20 plus years, of thinking other people's opinions of me are more important than me. So when you teach them this lesson, don't think that they will automatically change, because it does take a while to change this ingrained habit. Okay? So I'm not saying with the advice I've given that it'll bring about an instantaneous transformation, because old habits can die hard. The other important point I made in the article was by suggesting, and I've got to say this, by suggesting that people can take, do some actions themselves to prevent themselves from being the targets of bullying, is in no way blaming the victim. It's like me not leaving my keys in the car parked on a busy street. Okay, I should be able to, because it's against the law for someone who isn't the owner of that car to go get the keys and drive off in it. But we know the reality that there are some people out there who don't respect the law. So I've got to take some responsibility and think, okay, what can I do to minimize the risk of being the target of a crime or a bully? And does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you said that, actually, and you use that example, because there's so many issues.
Well, the big one is, and I'm reluctant to say it, but the big one, and if you think I shouldn't say it, maybe we can edit this bit out. But I've always found when you talk about safety of females and you make suggestions for what they can do,
Yeah.
you will be bombarded with hate messages saying that you're blaming the victim, all that sort of nonsense. No, we're not blaming the victim. We're just saying, hey, it can be a hard, tough word out there. There are some things that you can do that can minimize the
You
risk.
read my mind. That's exactly where I was going with that. The campus rape crisis. Yep, it's I'm so that that we actually have laws against leaving keys in your car. Like you can get fined for leaving your keys in the car because it's actually seen as you being such an easy mark
Yeah.
that you're actually costing society, policing resources and insurance claims and all of that. So that's how we treat it when it's theft. And people will mock you if you don't take, you'll go to work and say, oh, someone broke into my house. And they go, oh, did you lock your door? And you go, oh, no, I left my door unlocked. And they'll go, oh, well, you only got yourself to blame then. Yet when it's some of these other issues, that any insinuation that there are things you can do to prevent bad things happening to you is called victim blaming.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not. It's being helpful. I guess the other thing I should say is, for those people who don't have time to read the article and are just watching this, to give a simple example, when you are bullied, teased, or taunted, my favourite response is, yeah, thank you very much for that opinion. I really appreciate that. I will give it some thought. So it doesn't mean you're agreeing with it. You're just saying, yeah, I will give it some thought. You're not saying, oh, how dare you say that? You can't say that against me, about me. No, you're just saying, oh, thanks for your opinion. I'll give it some thought. Have a nice day. See ya.
Yes, yeah. Another good one I've heard is saying, I got this one from my auntie actually, is saying to someone, is that necessary?
Or is that working for you? How's that? Is that helpful? Does that make
Mm.
you feel good?
Yes, yes. And you're right that people they're looking for people who are going to react and the truth is, especially for us men, that there is an element in male to male relationships of a bit of taunting, a bit of light teasing. That if someone's so thin skinned that they're going to react to
Yeah.
someone calling you a drongo or whatever, you're not going to make friends. They're going to instantly write you off as as an idiot or a tool. So that little bit of resilience is probably, especially for men, is extremely important. I was watching a thing about the men's shed the other day, and they were saying on that, like they tease each other relentlessly in the men's shed. So yeah. So that's look, thank you very much. It's a great article. It's an easy read. It's fairly short. So I do encourage people to read the actual article as well, because it's and I'll put the link in the video. So thank you, Anthony.
Thank you very much. Do you want to finish off with Einstein's quote there? Have you got it there?
Oh, yes. Give me 1 second. So that's right. This was at the yes. As Albert Einstein once said, arrows of hate have been shot at me too, but they never hit me because somehow they belong to another world with which I have no connection whatsoever. That is a really great quote.
Thank you.
All right. Catch you later. Bye.
Okay.
Okay.